Hello and welcome to the podcast, Everything Self Love and Recovery, where today we're going to be talking to a real good friend of mine that I met along the journey. Albert has been a friend of mine. We've shared conversations and questions and all kind of good information about fishing and all kind of. I'll just let Albert introduce himself from around the way. Albert 21924, come on in and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, my name's Albert, and I'm a recovering alcoholic. My sobriety date is February 19th, 2024, and pretty much since that date, I've been focusing on redesigning my life without alcohol, and up to this point, it's been one of the better decisions that I've made up to this point in my journey. So I'm just here to share my experience, strength, and hope with you guys today.
Awesome. Well, as we talked a little bit earlier, and as we've discussed a few things along the way, I developed a few questions, no right or wrong answers, and it'll just start us off on the conversation. It can go whichever way you like it to go, but answer if you want, or say next, or we're just gonna have some fun today, man. I appreciate you
Yeah.
coming in. Thank you so much. I respect you and honor that you would come on to the podcast and share your experience, strength, and hope. So, can you share a bit about your journey in recovery and basically how it got started?
So I started drinking in college. Uh, I took my first drink. I was, I think, second semester sophomore at a university, and I was introduced to it by a roommate of mine. And from that first time that I got buzzed, uh, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the feeling. And that feeling started a long relationship with me chasing it. Um, and pretty much it started off, my alcoholism started off, well, my drinking, 'cause I think it started off just as just plainly just drinking, and then it grew into alcoholism. It just started off as just doing things with the guys, living on a college campus, a lot of parties, a lot of social gatherings. So alcohol was always the beverage of choice. And at the time, I didn't really see myself having a problem. I pretty much was a drinker, just like all my other friends. But when college ended, I kind of in life began lifing. Life started to open up a little bit more. I started realizing that I would turn to it um, when things were going bad, if I was stressed, if I suffered some type of loss. And I think at that point, once it went from being a social thing to a personal thing, that's when my personal relationship with alcohol started to take its own course. That's something that's different than what I did with my friends. It was something that I would do on my own. And that's when I started going to the liquor store myself, purchasing alcohol for myself, as opposed to doing it within a group setting. Like, let's just get a couple of bottles for everybody coming over. I started buying my own personal bottles on my own, and that's when I started to this walk in this direction with becoming closer and closer to alcohol. You know,
Wow. In
yeah,
high school, I started way back in junior high, I think. So
yeah.
I had a few years on you. But what role have the 12 steps played in your sobriety and your personal growth over the years?
Well, before I could, I'll answer that, but I think I should also. I think I would be uh, selling the story a little too short if I just jump into the 12 steps. What I'd like to share with you guys is how I got to the point where I even knew about a program. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I've I did the calculation the other day. I think I've been consuming alcohol for about 26 years.
Wow.
Um, 26 years. Um, and a lot of it, took place after college. And pretty much, I would say that I didn't think I had a problem with alcohol, but people around me used to always tell me that, why don't you pull it back a little bit, pull it back a
Yeah.
little bit. And I would always fight it like, no, I'm good. What are you talking about? I'm good. I'm good. But it wasn't really until 2022 that I finally came to the realization that I think I might have a problem with it.
Mm.
And I tried to quit on my, I tried to, actually, I tried to slow it down on my own. And, this is some of the things that I hear that a lot of people do is they try to taper it down, to try to get a sense of control over it. So that's what I did like in 2022. I tried to taper it down. You know, maybe I won't do hard liquor. Maybe I'll just do beer. Maybe I won't do beer. Maybe I'll just stick to wine. No, I did that.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe I'll buy like a bunch of bottled waters, and after every drink, I'll chase it with a bottle of water to kind of keep myself. So I found myself doing some of the things that I've heard, other alcoholics share that they've tried to do, kind of trying to rationalize how to balance the abuse. And then that didn't really work. And then I found
Mm.
myself in an ER on New Year's Eve 2022 going into 2023 because I severely was dehydrated and
Wow.
because I went on a binge. So I spent that New Year's Eve in the hospital, hooked up to IV,
Mm.
getting hydrated because I was completely bombed. And at that point in time, once I got out the ER, that New Year's Day, I vowed. I said, "This is it. I'm done. Like I'm just gonna stop." And I quit cold turkey. I didn't try to rationalize it. I didn't try to, substitute. I just went dry. And
Mm.
I did that in 2023 for 8 months. And then once again, life keeps lifing. I suffered a series of losses. Two associates of mine had passed away simultaneously, like 2 weeks apart,
Hmm. Well,
and
wait, wait,
that
wait. Before
that
you go on
yeah,
to that point,
sorry.
let me interrupt you because it was my understanding that
Mhm.
at an early age when I was drinking and all of that stuff, I was drinking beer, so I thought I would be hydrated. You mean that drinking all of the ice and everything, I can still become dehydrated? That's that.
Well, yeah. Well, you know what? To answer that, um, alcohol for me dries me out. I don't know, like that's one of the reasons why you wake up with a hangover.
Wow.
Is because like yeah, it's because like I I don't know the proper term for it, but it literally I feel like it dries you out, which is what makes you have like this throbbing headache in the morning.
Right. And
Which is why a lot yeah.
I was just trying to wonder because I know I never, I don't think I was ever admitted for dehydration. No telling, but I just found it
No,
interesting that,
yeah, no, but no,
dehydration
I
is a
know,
part.
no, I didn't like, I basically told them I felt out of it. I knew
Okay.
what I needed. I knew I needed to be hydrated. I knew
Mm-hmm.
that's what I needed. So I
Mm-hmm.
just told them that I felt out of it. And then that's the first thing that they'll look to do when you go into a hospital is to hydrate you. You know what I mean?
All
Give you
right.
IV. But but
Sorry to
yeah, I mean,
interrupt you. Go ahead.
no,
Go
no, no,
ahead.
it's okay. No, 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 but that's no, but that's the reason why. Like honestly, like when I was cognizant enough after going out drinking to actually drink a pitcher of water before I went to bed, I
Mm-hmm.
usually woke up better than I would if I didn't do it.
Mm.
You see what
Okay.
I'm saying? So
Uh-huh.
yeah. Anyway, in 2023, I quit for like 8 months, and then I relapsed, due to some losses. And but that relapse was pretty tough because I went on a real serious bender, as they say,
Mm. Yeah.
and I found myself in 2024, middle of January, uh, just like completely out of sorts,
Mm.
like out of sorts more than usual, out of sorts to the point where it's like I felt like I had some type of like outer body experience where I just felt like I was gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I was gonna commit suicide, but I just felt like if I keep doing this, there's no way that I'm making it out of 2024. Like my body was telling self and I, like self, if you keep doing this, we won't make it out
Mm,
of this year. And I think it was at that moment that I realized that I came to, I guess an awakening of some sort that I have got to get this alcoholism under control and I need professional help. I can't do it on my own.
right.
And so that's what ultimately led me to look for professional help. And I found a treatment center
Mm,
in my area that, I called the 1-800 number and I told them what the situation was. And they they got my insurance information. And within like a couple of days, I was in a treatment program. Well, treatment was interesting because it it forced me to have to open up a lot and talk about things that I always kept pretty much within. And but what I did get from treatment was a lot of information and knowledge about alcoholism, the disease, just ways of how to cope better with life. I definitely had a therapist when I was in the program, and that was very helpful. And ultimately, the biggest takeaway from treatment was post treatment.
mm-hmm.
I had one facilitator who was very instrumental. He made a real big impact on me, and his whole spiel was, look, I can give you all the knowledge, I can give you Maslow's theories, I can give you all the education behind why you're sick, but once this is all over with, you've got to find a support group. That's what's going to help you maintain and stay sober. And he just kept focusing us to seek post treatment support.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through that encouragement, that's how I found my support group, which thus has become a very vital part of my recovery. Yeah, just kept stressing, kept hammering it that once the insurance runs out and all this you know therapy and counseling is all gone, what are you guys gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't find a support group, he was like saying like it's only gonna be a matter of time before you go right back.
Mm-hmm.
So I took I, you know I at that point in time, I just wanted what he had at that point. He's somebody who has like 34 years of sobriety. So because I resonated with him, it was like everything that he said I just hung on to because looking at him, I found some commonalities in myself, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, if whatever this guy has, I'm gonna do what he tells me to do because I want what he has. I need about 34 years of sobriety right now. So and that's ultimately what led me to find the support group. And that's ultimately how we met,
Right.
because this facilitator kept hammering it in my head, in all of our heads. And and I certainly do hope that some of the other people in group follow up as well. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't kept in touch with any of them, but I hope that they're all doing well. But I know that I'm doing well because of the group. It's a big part of my recovery.
Right. My trip to treatment back in November of 2022 was about the same. It was like, man, y'all need to really button down. And I had some time prior too. So this time, like you said, it got really bad. And I went back into treatment and insisted on, you need to work your steps. You need to get around some people that's going to help you and support you along this journey. So I guess that's what he did for you. So
Right.
awesome. Well, with you coming into the group, it was kind of, I think as I came into the group, I was kind of laid back trying to see what was going on. But by the time you got there, I was full fledged every morning talking noise and all kind of stuff because this program has saved and changed my life for sure. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely my approach to my recovery, I one thing I did say to myself, is that you know, when you're in therapy and then, then you go to group and then you find a support group, uh, everything's being thrown at you. Everything is being thrown at you at one time. And one thing that I made a promise to myself was, and I got this piece from my therapist, he always stressed to me, he said, look, always remember, Al, that your recovery is your recovery.
Mm,
YOUR. Okay. You approach your recovery at a pace that makes sense for you. This is what the
mm,
therapist kept stressing. He was like, you know, you're going to get bombarded with a lot of things, plus you're trying to, plus, and your life is going to be changing. So he
right.
said, do me a favor and just take your time and tailor your recovery so that it works for you. And he also kept hammering that in my head as well.
Mm,
So as I began to walk, in this path, I always kept it in my mind that no matter what, I'm gonna take my time with it,
mhm.
and I'm gonna do it at a pace that is not too overwhelming for me because I don't want to mess up. I don't want to relapse. I don't want to get discouraged. I don't want
Right.
to feel overwhelmed. So, and he definitely made me confident in approaching it that way. And so
Okay.
that's why when I first came into the group, I'm thinking now I'm opening up a little bit more, but I definitely kind of like played the back a little bit and just kind of observe and watch and feel my way through this. And
Right.
so far, I'm happy with the way I've approached it because I'm like what now, almost like 390 days sober, today. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Some places you go, if you go to a brick and mortar, or as we met on a Zoom meeting, people will hammer, and I was hammered many a times, and have hammered folks like, man, you got to get a sponsor, you got to do the steps, you got to do this, you got to, and it can be overwhelming for a lot of people, man. And it was kind of overwhelming for me, but I know that pain was on me so bad, and they told me that it would get it off of me. And I couldn't figure out how this simple program, 12 steps and a sponsor and all the things that y'all tell me to do, I couldn't see how this stuff could help me, man.
Right.
And one day at a time, obviously, it has helped you, and it has got me to where we're at right now. So go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's what I did, so I joined the group, and then through this group, it's funny. It's weird. Through this group, I had I don't know if I emailed someone, but they sent me, like, this is very in the beginning. They sent me like a list of people
Mm,
via email. And because I really don't understand. It's funny, I have a sponsor. I don't know. I know I emailed someone in the group and they
okay.
sent me a bunch of names. And I called each and every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like how I found my sponsor was I kind of, you know, not necessarily interviewed them, but I definitely talked to them to get a feel for
Yes,
if it would be a good fit. And
absolutely.
there was some guys that they only wanted to meet in person,
Mm,
and due to my schedule, I found that to be very hard because, like, I work a lot. So
mm-hmm.
and then there were some that there was one guy who only had about a year sobriety,
Mm-hmm.
and I definitely, and I'm not saying that somebody with a year sobriety can't be a good sponsor. I just definitely wanted somebody who had more experience with being sober, than So I kind of felt like, respectfully, I kind of felt like, I appreciated what he was doing, and I kept him more like, we speak from time to time, more like sober support.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was another guy who had about 17 years of sobriety. And then as I was talking to him, he was telling me, about a little bit about himself. And then but he said one key thing to me.
Mm,
He said, what he said to me, he said, look, always remember that this is about your recovery.
mm-hmm.
Okay. This is about your recovery. And never be afraid to fire somebody if it's not working. That's
Yes.
what I want to leave you with.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever decision you go, whoever you decide to work with, I wish you well on your journey regardless. But always remember, if it's not working for you, always remember this has to work for you. So
Yeah.
don't be afraid. Don't feel obligated. Don't feel because of quote unquote loyalty. Don't do those things. If
Right.
it's not working, be honest and just say it's not working and maybe find someone else. And I
Absolutely.
almost and I'm glad you agree with that because when I got off the phone with him, I really felt that. I really felt that that resonated with me. You know what I mean? That
Hmm.
resonated with me. And the way he was talking, he was very, to the point, very matter of fact, and it reminded me of the facilitator that I had in group
Wow.
when I was in the treatment program. And and I was like, something about him feels familiar. So then I decided, you know what? I called him the next day and I said, listen, I wanna I need your help.
Awesome. Uh-huh.
And we started working from there. And so,
So,
yeah, yeah. And so that's how I found my sponsor. And we've he works through Zoom, he works through FaceTime, phone call. And
right.
it's interesting. Like I've been working with him for almost shoot, maybe like almost a year now. And we're actually gonna meet in person soon.
Awesome.
So I've not met him like physically. I've met him through this fashion
Okay.
and on the phone and everything like that. But we're actually going to meet up soon. So he's been very helpful as well. He's
Well,
been very helpful as well.
let me kind of recap some of that as far as a sponsor and meeting yourself. And I know if anyone's new out there and you've been to a meeting, people will always say, well, you got to get a sponsor, get somebody and they give you all these details on who it should be. It should be somebody you can relate to. Their story should be the same and all of that stuff. But for me, it was somebody that knew something about this program. And really, my first sponsor was really, he was
Hmm.
he was like, "Fool, you gonna die." He told me, "You smart
Hmm.
enough, you're gonna die." And
Right.
first thing I asked you, it was funny. You said you sort of kind of interviewed all of the people. And when I first met him, I was like, "Man, how many people you done got sober?" And he looked at me. He said, "Fool, I don't get people sober. Hell, I stay sober by helping fools like you." So, and I looked at
Yeah.
him kind of weird, and but that guy walked with me as this individual was walking through. So a sponsor is just someone that has experienced the 12 steps, have experienced some kind of awakening, or have some experience, more so like you said, a year, not a whole bunch of time, to have a lot of experience some of the things that we go through
Correct.
in and out of recovery. So my sponsor had quite a bit of time. And so if you're newer to me, by all means, Albert, the process that you did was in asking questions and getting to know some individuals for a sponsor. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but if you're not comfortable, why would I come in here and get a militant guy if I'm not a militant kind of guy? So it has to
Right.
resonate with you, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So and so far, overall, how it's ultimately going is, man, it's going tremendously well. I mean, like honestly, man, like I can't even believe sometimes that I don't even think about a drink anymore.
Mm,
I'm doing pretty much a lot of the same things that I've done, prior, you know, to drinking. And it just feels good to be able to just live life and not have to like incorporate alcohol in every single thing that I do.
hmm.
Like dinner doesn't have to have a drink anymore.
Yeah.
You know, going out to a baseball game doesn't have to have a brew anymore. And quite frankly, what this first year has really been about for me is just learning how to live sober again. Because I was sober for almost 21 years of my life,
Right, right.
and then I got away from it, and then almost 26 more years, alcohol was always the beverage of choice for 26 years. And
Mm.
now I'm 47 years old, about to be 48 soon. And it's just amazing to see that, I'm back to feeling how I once did when I was like a young guy again, a young kid. Like
21, huh?
yeah, yeah, that's when I started. So it's
Right.
like, like I'm drinking like Pepsi again, even though that's not the most healthiest thing, but I'm drinking Coca-Cola, I'm drinking regular soft drinks. But it just, bottom line is, man, is like I just wouldn't man, I just wouldn't trade how I feel today from where I was at, damn near almost a year ago. I mean,
Hmm.
man, that was a pretty dark place. And honestly, it's just the progressiveness of this illness, it just gets worse and worse to the problem drinker. And that's where I felt I was at. Like it was just getting worse. Like I felt the feeling that I never felt before in my 26 years. And I think I was at that point in the process that it was probably just going to be going downhill from that point. If I didn't do something,
So
I
let's
think,
talk about that. You
yeah,
know,
right,
a lot of people think that an alcoholic or an addict or whoever has to be that homeless guy on the street corner and all of these things. And it seems like that you had enough, you had a job, you had insurance, and you came in. So the the thought that an individual has to hit a bottom to where they're homeless, they don't, you know, all of these preconceived notions that people have of alcoholics and addicts. It seems like you had a high bottom, is what they call it. But one of the guys explains it as, you know, he likes water, but he doesn't drink a case of water. He likes beer, and he drinks a case of beer and then some. So,
right,
talking about, you know, being beat down and the relationship, like I said, you know, some people come in here really damaged. You know, when I relapsed, I ended up going to jail. My 15-year-old daughter had to call the police on me because I was holding her stepmom, hostage in the bedroom. I wasn't hurting her, but I wasn't letting her out because of my paranoia. I ended up was diagnosed with schizophrenia and all kind of things. But she's back in my life and asked me to walk her down the aisle. But the
right,
preconceived
right.
notion of an alcoholic, you know, you don't fit that bill. What would you say to those that really think that an alcoholic can't look, you know, has to look a certain way or has to drink every morning,
Yeah,
every night, and all of those things, the preconceived
yeah,
notions? Touch on that a little bit.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a wrong thought process. It's a wrong perception. Um, I like to not like, but I was what you would call a functioning alcoholic.
Mm,
You know, um, and I use the word yet. You know,
good
I
point.
I have been I was able to maintain my professionalism at work. I was able to maintain my business endeavors, um, but and still function at a pretty high degree in terms of earning capacity and not fumbling those opportunities yet, though,
Hmm.
yet, because but what started to really happen was everything that people discuss that comes with alcohol started to happen to me. It was starting to happen. My relationships were being affected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, the alcoholism was affecting my family life. It was affecting my personal life.
Hmm.
It did affect my daughter. So I was already beginning to unwind,
Hmm.
so I'm almost saying that sure, sometimes you can hold it together, and still look like you don't have, like, some of my friends still don't believe that I'm an alcoholic. They
Right.
they they really don't. But I know I am. I know
Right.
I am because they don't see me when I'm on my own time.
Right.
You see? And only I know how I am when I'm by myself, because that's what some of us do. We isolate and
Absolutely.
we do us by ourselves.
Hmm.
And so though I was able to keep it in somewhat of bounds, right? Because I didn't catch a DUI, I wasn't incarcerated due to alcohol. But yes, I did fracture relationships. I did bruise a lot of relationships. I did do some things that I'm not too proud of. I have hurt some people, and ultimately, um, if I had kept on, all the yets would have eventually ended up happening.
Hmm.
I was definitely heading in that direction, honestly.
Absolutely. And you know, the paperwork I was looking, it seemed like my laptop was gonna die on me, but I'm pretty sure it's plugged up. Uh, you know, our literature talks about that that portion of it to where we think we're at the end of the road, or some of it has different levels of coming in here. But it also talks about the spiritual, physical, and mental illness that we have. So the alcohol, once it overrules my life and I can't really not drink even if I don't want to, once I get that alcohol out of my body, then I still have to deal with the spiritual and the mental aspect of it. As you say, a lot of your friends
Right.
look at you and say, come on, man, you can just have one. And once I realize, and that's the good thing about Alcoholics, well, I don't want to say that. That's a good thing about the program, is that no one can tell you you're an alcoholic unless you accept that you're an alcoholic yourself. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no denying it. Like I know, I know exactly, sorry, I know exactly, who I am. I know exactly where this disease was taking me.
Mhm.
And I think that because I don't know, just something in me um tapped self on his shoulder and said, "Look, okay, if you don't get this thing, we're at a point, self and I, we're at a point that if we don't get this thing checked, this thing is going to check us out."
Yeah.
And I call it a spiritual awakening, call it some aha moment, that thing, that moment, that was the moment when I said, okay, I've had enough.
Wow.
I'm going to get some help. And for somebody like myself, for me to get to the point where it's like I'm checking myself in to a
Hmm.
treatment center,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, my inner self was really talking to my outer self and was telling them, I definitely had a moment, a real like awakening. And
Absolutely.
since that point, man, I haven't looked back. And the way I feel today, man, it's like I can't even imagine me even going back. It's like
Wow.
I have 26 years of experiences that are more than enough to make me realize like me and this illness, like we have to part ways. Like
Yeah,
it's like
most definitely.
this relationship is over, you know.
So, what advice would you give to somebody that's struggling with their recovery, or finding it challenging to stay sober, or even trying to figure out if they're an alcoholic or not? There might be somebody out there listening that might not even be
Yeah,
sure they're an alcoholic. Would you have any advice
man,
or?
man. Well, hmm, man, Wendell, I think that sometimes I think that people have to go through the things that they have to go through. You know, um, I had people who care about me deeply pull me to the side a couple of years ago and said, "Yo, I think you have a problem."
Hmm.
And I fought it. I fought it. I fought it. I fought it a lot. Like no, you have the problem. No, you're the one with the problem because you're pissing me off. Yeah, no, no. If you would stop pissing me off, I wouldn't have this problem. You see what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? Yeah,
Yes.
I did all of that. Like you're the reason why I'm drinking
Hmm.
because you're pissing me off. You understand?
Right.
So I think that I hate to say this, but I don't. I just think that you just have to wake up one day. Like I don't know if it's like if I didn't have that moment, if I didn't have that, I don't know what do you want to call it, a spiritual awakening. If I didn't have that introspective, if I didn't have that moment where I literally saw death,
Yes.
I don't think I would be here right now. I think I would be still doing what I was accustomed to doing. That moment is the moment that made me realize that something is really off with you, and that's why for me, I think that's why I'm able to be so serious about this program and
Hmm.
so serious about this journey because I really had that moment. And so I don't know, I can't even really answer that question. How can I, you know, what advice would I have for somebody who's struggling? I think they may have to struggle more. They may have to struggle more in a weird way,
Right.
right?
No, no, I
Because
understand.
they may have to struggle more. They may have to wake up in a weird place to come to a real reality. Like, yo, I need some help. You know what I mean? Because I don't think that if I didn't come to that point, I don't think I would be sober today. I think I would still be doing what I think I'm at. No, I think I'd still be doing what I think I'm accustomed to.
Absolutely, absolutely. I had mentioned a little while ago where it was probably, she was 15, she's 22 now. So what's that, about 6 or 7 years ago? My math is all
Hmm.
off. But either way, it's been about 7 years ago. And I thought that would be enough to make me stop. I don't ever want to experience this no more. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to be schizophrenia or any of those things. And I got my little weight back, got my little color back, got all spruced up from the one little treatment center I went. Actually, I say treatment center, I ended up going to the insane asylum and they diagnosed me schizophrenia, temporary schizophrenia, and I came out of that. And you would think that would have been enough. But somewhere along the way, I tried one more time that controlled drinking. I could just have a beer. And it led to another. One, two, three, four. And before I knew it, I was off drinking every day. I was drinking almost a handle every 4 or 5 days. And I came from that pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. The book talks about that, the first 164
Hmm.
pages. It talks about that jumping off point that some people make it to. And that point can be any level at any point. Mine went a lot deeper, but fortunately you got off, you had that spiritual awakening and came in and started working these steps with the sponsor. And you say over a year now, and your life has changed around, and you don't see turning back. So that is absolutely magnificent. Have you had any? How do you navigate any challenging moments or triggers? You know.
Yeah. So yeah, no, no. So that I can solidly answer. Now I realize that through what I learned in the program, the treatment program, and what I'm learning in the group is I have to manage everything now. I manage everything. Um, I still have my friends. I still have my friends. But for example, how do I manage my friendships now? Well, I I still come around, but I have time limits now.
Mm,
I'm not hanging out all day anymore. You know, if they're having a get together, I'm only going to stay for 2 hours
mm,
tops. You
mm,
know what I mean? Like, um, I pick, people, places, and things. Like I don't hang out at bars anymore.
mm,
You know, I've changed a lot of things about how I've changed a lot of things about how I flow. Instead of going to hang out, you know, in front of your house, sitting in the car. No, let's go and grab something to eat, or let, let's go fishing, let's go work out. Like I just changed the places, and the
right.
things. I've just had to just relearn. It's been a little challenging, but it's learning, it's relearning how to live life without alcohol.
So
And
along,
when you
go.
start doing that, go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
So along those same lines, and we talked about sponsorships and some preconceived notions is that your sponsor is going to come in here and make you do this, that, or the other. Did somebody make you do that, or did they? Was that a progression through the 12 steps that helped you realize some of these things? How did that transition come into play?
Oh, no, it's part of it is working the steps. A lot of it is working with the sponsor. A lot of it is understanding. I mean, yeah, a lot of it is working with a sponsor. I mean, one of the things that he told me, which was I fought it a little bit in the beginning was, he said, you're gonna have to go to a meeting every day for the rest of your life.
Yes.
No, so when he told me that, I'm like, for the rest of my life, I could understand like for this moment in time because I'm trying to get this thing under control, of course. But you trying to say forever? And
Right.
he goes, yeah, forever. And why I can own it and accept it today is because we've got people in the program that have been there since 1980.
Yes.
And once again, when I think about what I want, I also want what they have.
Mm-hmm.
40 something years of sobriety. And if I see a guy or a woman that is still coming to meetings since 1980, I get it. Like, I just needed to have that experience. So I had to take what he told me, my sponsor, and then I
Hmm.
had to link it with an experience from the group of seeing somebody, knowing somebody that has been in coming to meetings since 1980 for me to put it all together and for it to make sense that, this guy's right.
Right.
Because I'm seeing somebody who has 40 something years of sobriety and I'm doing the same thing that he's been doing since 1980.
Hmm.
So once I saw that, it made me feel comfortable saying, yeah, I get it.
Right.
This is definitely something yeah,
When I met the guy that walked me through the steps the very first time, he had about 15 some odd years. And I was like, man, ain't you got a life, man? Why do you come around here all this? Why do
Mm,
you come to meetings? And it's the great fact that the book talks about in the steps and all of that talks about giving back what was so freely given to me. I'm responsible
right.
for whenever the hands of somebody in need reaches out, then I'm responsible to be there and to share only my experience, strength, and hope, not to get them, talk them off the ledge or anything of that nature, although that has happened sometimes. But so, as you were saying,
Yeah.
the 40 years, you've seen that in the rooms. And so,
Yeah.
every day of your
And
life.
yeah, yeah. And something that another person that we know states all the time is that, what happens is that now I used to crave alcohol, and now what I'm realizing by continuing to come back is that now I crave to hear people's stories. I crave to hear people's experience. I crave to hear people's strength. I crave
Hmm.
to hear people's good days, bad days. Because now as this has become a part of my normal flow, it's like I wake up like clockwork, and it's like the first thing that comes to my mind is I got to jump on my meeting because what I gain from it is so important to me that it doesn't feel like anymore that I have to do this to stay sober. No, it's not.
Right.
Now it's become I want to do this. I want to see what my group is doing. I want to see how they're doing today. I want to hear
Absolutely.
the what the new guy is going through. All of this
Absolutely.
helps me. All of this helps me. All of this helps me. There's always something that I gain from some aspect of the meeting that
Yes.
stays with me each and every day, and it helps me, it fortifies me to continue to stay on this path. So now this is something that I absolutely love to do every day now, and I'm so
Awesome.
glad that I got to this point.
Hmm.
And I share that with my sponsor, and he goes, I'm so glad that you've gotten to this point, because I remember 7 months ago you were like, hell no, like every day. I don't know about that. Maybe another year or so, and then I'm gonna be good.
Right.
No, no, no. I've accepted that I'm never gonna be good. I
Right.
have to. I have to constantly focus on sobriety each and every single day of my life.
Absolutely. They say
Yeah.
all the time that what you put before your sobriety, you'll soon lose. And I am living proof that I've lost everything once, twice, and
Mm.
I refuse to go back one day at a time, as you were saying. Yeah, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. They sometimes put it across as a religious cult.
Mm.
Y'all trying to make me do this. Y'all trying to, all the prayers and God and spirituality. Talk a little bit about, we have an atheist meeting. We have to the agnostics. We have all kind of different things in there. And just talk a little bit about, is it a code? Is it what I hear you say spiritual awakening and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about
Well,
that.
well. I never felt like I never felt any of these things that people are saying out there. You
Okay.
know, um, you know, what I look at the group, the group to me is a great place. Like and to me, I feel like if you're gonna put all those things in your head, then you're not ready to become sober. Let's just put it that way.
Looking
Because
for
I
an
feel
excuse, huh?
you're just for an excuse. Because
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, if somebody said to me, I got I know how you can stay sober, you gotta roll on your belly 10 times a day and
Yeah.
that'll work.
Hmm.
At that point where I was at, where I was staring at death, I
Hmm.
would have gladly rolled on my stomach 10 times a day if truthfully it was gonna help me.
And
So
if you've
for
seen it
me,
working in somebody
and
else,
if you've seen
like
it
you
work
said,
and
yeah,
stuff, exactly.
right.
So for me, respectfully, I don't care about all of that stuff that floats around out there.
Yeah,
I like the group. I think it's positive. I don't look at it as a cult. I don't look at it as a religious organization. I look at it as, man, these are a group of people that got the same problem like me, and we're just trying to help each other get through each day,
absolutely.
one day at a time. And for me, it's a source of comfort to know that I'm not alone. I got people, men and women from all across this world, from all different religious backgrounds, racial backgrounds, and we're all binded by the same thing. We all have a disease, we all have a problem, and we all want to get better. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't feel anything cult like. I feel like this is just a serious group of people that just want to stay sober and live
Wow.
a better life. And for me, I'm all right with it, man. I don't care if it was a religious group. I don't care if it was a religious
Absolutely.
organization. I, just the fact that I know that I could jump on and I could hear something from somebody. I could express myself. I could share how I'm feeling, and somebody will be there to help me get through it.
Right.
That to me is everything. So, I
Awesome.
mean, if people want to say what they want to say, I think that they just not ready to have a better life. That's how I look at it. You know?
Absolutely. So with the
Yeah. I'm sorry.
podcast being with the name of the podcast, Everything Self Love and Recovery, is there a
Mhm.
self love experience or something that you'd like to expound on? You mentioned the awakening of being
Yeah.
realizing that I had a problem. So is there something
Yeah.
about your self love and recovery journey that you'd like to share?
Yeah. I'm I'm putting me first, man. And I learned that in therapy. Listen, man, Albert has to take care of Albert, man.
Well, what
He
would
has
you
to put
say to the
himself
people?
first.
What would you say to the people to say you were taking and putting yourself first every time you went out and drank and you done all the things that you've
Nah,
done?
yeah, what I would say to them is like, no, no, I was dealing with pain.
Yeah.
I was dealing with unresolved issues. I
Yeah.
was dealing with resentments. This is what the steps have helped me to realize. The catalyst to my drinking was that I had problems that I
Okay.
had to work through. You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
was actually turned into something to numb the pain, to
Okay.
numb my sense of reality, to at some points I needed that to get through the day
Yeah.
because I was bothered, boggled down, stressed out, or But today, what is so
Hmm.
freeing is that what I've learned through my recovery and self love is putting myself first, is loving myself enough to know that I don't need to poison myself to get through a day.
Wow.
Love yourself. Yeah, yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've been focusing a lot on really understanding, that that it has to start with me.
Hmm.
I have to put myself first. I have to love myself enough that no matter what happens, I don't have to poison myself to get through whatever it is that's happening. So when you talk
Absolutely.
about self-love, yes, I think that a lot of times people abuse things because they've lost that sense of love for themselves. You know what I mean?
Wow. That's awesome.
And through recovery, I'm getting back into loving myself again.
That's
And when you
awesome.
start loving it, and when you start loving yourself, you start realizing, why would I put poison into my body? Why would I want to hurt my organs? Why would I want to shorten my lifespan? Why would I want to do something that could impair my judgment and make me do something crazy out here and get incarcerated?
Yeah.
Like, and so this whole year has been me learning how to love me again.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
That is awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing, breaking on some experience, strength, and hope. I threw a little curveballs in there every now and then, but it's interesting to learn some of the questions and things that I'm approached with. All of the things which you smashed most of them. In closing, can you share a memorable experience or a lesson learned during your time in recovery that has significantly impacted your life?
Absolutely. And it's just one thing, you mentioned, your daughter, so I have one. And when your daughter, who has seen you be your worst self, can tell you that, Dad, I'm really proud of you.
Mm,
That right there,
yeah.
is worth it all. I'm doing this for me, but the fact that, your daughter, my child, is looking at me and saying, Dad, I know where you were. And if you were in pain, I'm sorry that you were in pain, but I'm glad that you're doing something about it to be a
Mm,
better version of yourself. That right there is enough catalyst for me to keep going. You know what I'm saying? Because I
wow.
need to be better for her.
We
Yeah.
can drop the mic right there, fam. That's for sure.
All
Well,
right,
once
Wendell.
again,
Yeah.
Albert, I appreciate you coming in. You've been listening to the podcast, Everything Self Love and Recovery. We've had Albert
Yes.
that we've met along this journey, and we greatly appreciate you. And just good luck in the future, man. Stay the path. Whenever in doubt, they say pick up that 10,000 pound phone, and I'm always available. Text, call,
Yeah.
whatever. And we
Appreciate that,
appreciate you.
Wendell. All right,
Awesome,
Wendell.
man.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
All right.
having me, man. All right.
Absolutely, sir.
Take care.
Wow, that was fantastic. We had Albert from the Journey on the Path of Self Love and Recovery here at the podcast, and I just appreciate him. And if you're interested in being a guest on the podcast, go to speaker.youloveyoullc.com. That's speaker singular, speaker.youloveyoullc.com. There's information that you can put in there. If you want to reach me, I can be reached at Wendell at youloveyoullc.com. The podcast can be seen on most of your podcast platforms. You can look me up on YouTube/youloveyoullc.com. I'm also the author of 4 Powerful Strategies to Heal from Trauma. It's on Amazon, or you can find it on my website at members.youloveyoullc.com. By all means, whatever you do in life, take the time to learn how to love yourself. Everything Self Love and Recovery is the podcast that can help shed light on childhood trauma, alcoholism, addiction, all the things, the bad behaviors that come along with being an alcoholic. I guess that's what I'd have to close this out with. But either way, feel free to hit me up, look me up on the website, smash the like button, subscribe, share it with somebody that might be suffering or might not be sure that they're an alcoholic. By all means, get involved, stay involved, and realize that you do not have to suffer alone. And I'll close this with this. When will you stop allowing your past to hold your future hostage? Peace.